Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm Nature Angel and today we are going to be talking about how you can get that job that you really want. So first things first, I'm going to show you the outfit that you should wear, or not the exact outfit you should wear, but how you should dress for an interview. All right, so this is the outfit that I got the job in Virginia with, as well as the outfit I wore when I got my internship. I got it from Fashion Nova. It's very comfortable and cute. And I feel like this is something that you can wear to interview because it's professional, but doesn't look like something that everyone else would be wearing. It has that little pop of red. All right, so as you can see, that's what I'm wearing now, and this is what I wore to get the job that I got in Virginia, as well as the outfit I wore for the internship that I got, and I received both of them. So of course you don't have to wear this exact thing, but this is something professional that you can wear. Now I will tell you that when I had my interview for internship, it was right before COVID happened, so that was in person. When I had my job interview in Virginia, that was virtual, which is why I am sitting here, because this is exactly where I sat when I interviewed for Virginia. You want to make sure when you're interviewing, if it's virtual, to have a plain white background. Or if you don't have a plain white wall, you would want something that doesn't have anything distracting in the back, something that shows that you're being professional. Now that we got all of that out of the way for how to dress and how you should look going in, I'm going to talk about the part that you guys probably really want to hear, which is what type of interview questions can you expect. So these are questions that I received, as well as questions that some of my friends have received when they were interviewing for a school psych position. The first question, they're usually trying to get to know you, so they want to know about your background. So I'm not going to go through each question and tell you exactly what I said, but I'm going to give you some tips on how you can do it for yourself, because one of the most important things is to be true to yourself and also to feel out the job that you are trying to get. So when you're telling someone about your background, what they're looking for is background information on your education, maybe how you got interested in school psychology. And honestly, they might ask that as a separate question. But what I told them was what I did in my undergrad and how I started wanting to be a psychiatrist, didn't know school psych was a thing, and then I took a 2-year break to figure things out, found out about school psychology. Here I am, talked about the experience briefly that I had in internship and in my program as well. So that's something that you could say for your background. Another question that I got asked was, what is the difference between an IDEA and Section 504? So I did not know how to answer that because I wasn't expecting that question, but I think I answered it okay. For IDEA, you could say something along the lines that a child might need different curriculum or instruction, while a Section 504 plan is more accommodation and tools for children to use. So don't take my word for that exactly, but say something along those lines and research up on how you would answer that question. Sometimes you get questions that are more like something you see on the Praxis, and I was expecting more typical interview questions. So when that came up, I was not expecting that, but be prepared for a question like that. Another question that I was asked was, what are some problems that I see arising in the next 5 years, and what would I do to fix that? So depending on the time period when you take the job, I would relate it to that. So for example, currently, I would say that you would see problems relating to COVID. And there also might be a lot of issues regarding racism in the school, especially based off of what has happened during COVID. And racism has always been here. So that's just 2 examples. again, depending on the time period, like something else might be more relevant next year that you could see arising. There are plenty of answers that you can give, but you want to think like that when they ask you that question. Jobs want to know how you will handle working with different types of cultures and families. So a question that I did get asked was, how would I, or did I work with a family that's culture is different from mine, and how did I handle it? If you haven't had that situation come up, then I would just speak to what you would do if you were in that situation. So how would you handle it? Always think back to what you have learned in your classes and the experiences that you've been having in internship. That's what they're looking for. You also may get questions related to how would you handle a difficult parent, or a parent that is requesting testing but you don't think testing is appropriate. One thing that I feel like is always important to mention in questions like these are that you want to validate the parent's feelings and then go on to how you're going to finish out that response, because part of our job is to be kind of the person that keeps the harmony between everyone. So these parents probably talk to other teachers and faculty and have felt like their voice isn't heard. You want to make sure that regardless of what you think should be done, that the parent does feel validated and that they do feel like what they are saying is important, because that will help to prevent so many issues from arising. And also, the parents are saying it for a reason. Parents want what's best for their kids. So listen to them, hear them out, talk with them, make sure that they feel like they are being heard, and then go on to how you're going to answer that question. Some other questions that you might be asked are like, how would you conduct an FBA? Or how would you identify a student that is SLD? So again, when there's questions like these, just make sure that you know what you would do, or the process that you would do depending on the state, because that could look different. So maybe you want to research how they would do that, and also tie in what you have done based off of your own program. Then they also ask you some more typical questions, usually like, what made you want to work in blank in the school system that you're applying to? So you definitely want to research a little bit about the school, and it could be anything that you found interesting. So let's say that you had internship with a technology school, and then the district that you're applying to also has a technology school. Well, then you could say like, oh, I worked at one and I thought this was interesting, looked more into it, and keep going with that. It could be something like you're changing your area. You've always wanted to live in the area, so you looked up the school and you saw that they have the most diversity in the area and you want to work with diversity. Or you saw that they have the highest graduation rates and it just seems like a good school to be at. Things like that, that makes it look like you did your research, which you should do your research before applying somewhere, because you don't want to be somewhere that you don't like, or else you're gonna probably hate the system that you're in. So definitely do your research for this question, but also to make sure that you are applying somewhere that you find interesting. Then of course you always have your strengths and your weaknesses portion. So for strengths and weaknesses, I always say things related to being able to talk to different people, because I have worked with the range of ages based on the past before I was in school psychology and now. So you want those interpersonal skills. I feel like that's really important. But honestly, talk about strengths that you do have. Everyone has something to bring to the table. So what do you have to bring to the table that stands out and is related to school psych? I would say name about 3 or 4 strengths. When it comes to weaknesses, I would name just one, something that isn't going to look like a hindrance, and whenever you give your weakness, turn it around to make it sound good. For example, a weakness that I give is that I always need to feel prepared when I'm giving a presentation or giving a report. And I say that I want to feel prepared, but I know that's not always the case, because things can come up and you never know what to expect sometimes. So I deal with that by just going with the flow, and I talk about experiences where I had that happened before in the past where I had only an hour to prepare for something that I usually would have 2 hours to prepare for. And I did it and it was all right and it made me feel better and I knew that it was possible. So things like that where it might be, it's not the worst like possible scenario, but also you're turning it around as it was a learning experience and what you got from that. All right, and lastly, they always ask if you have any questions for them, and I feel like a lot of people don't really have questions. Like they're like, oh no, it's fine, but you want to have questions. And again, since you're trying to work at this place, you want to know if this is the right fit for you as much as they want to know if you're a right fit for them. So some important questions that you probably want to know about where you're applying to is how school psychologists are split within their time. Like, do they do a lot of testing? Do they do a lot of counseling, check-ins, all of that? Because each district is going to be different. And depending on what you want to do more or less of, you want to know what they expect from you to make sure that it's a good fit. Another important thing would be to ask if they have a RTI or MTSS system, because if it's a tiered system of support versus it's not, that's going to be a real big difference. And, you know, you have to ask yourself, is that somewhere where you want to work? And if it is, that's fine. And if it's not, that's also fine. But that's something important that you would want to know. Another good question to ask is, will you be in one building? Do you handle multiple grades? And if you do, what's the population of you to the students? How many students do you usually work with? How many evaluations are you expected to do within a year? So you want to know that ratio of the caseload to school psych. So there's plenty more questions that you could ask related to that, but that is certain questions that you want to know when going into an interview. And they might answer that in the beginning, but if they don't, you definitely want to ask that and ask genuine questions that you are wondering, especially if they didn't answer anything. But you don't want to have the end of the interview come and you have no questions. So everyone, I really hope this helped. I kind of just went through like how to dress and the questions you can expect, along with some responses you can give. But in the end, you want to be prepared, but you really want to be yourself and you really want to get a feel for if this is a place that you'd want to be at. Don't just accept any job, accept a place that you honestly want to work in and can see yourself at, because that's somewhere where you're going to be for a good chunk of the day. So you really want to make sure that you mesh really well. And I hope that this helps, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.